The Bridget city lights shimmered in the river below, soft and scattered, like tiny broken promises floating on the surface. Traffic hummed behind her, distant and uncaring. It was late, too late for most, but not for her. Her name was Emily, and she stood on the edge of the old iron bridge, toes curled over the rusted beam. Wind tugging at her coat like it was trying to hold her back. She didn't cry. There were no tears left. The cold had dried them up, just like everything else in her life. Behind her, the world had become too loud, too sharp. A failed relationship, a job lost without warning, a mother who hadn't spoken in months, and a voicemail from her landlord that she hadn't even finished listening to. Every part of her felt like a weight she couldn't carry anymore. She looked down. The river looked calm, peaceful, nothing like her mind. But then she heard footsteps, slow, steady. Someone wasn't rushing by. Someone was walking toward her on purpose. She stiffened, not turning, hoping they'd just keep going. But they didn't. Single quotes. A voice. Gentle and quiet, broke through the wind. "It's a nice view, isn't it?" She turned her head slightly. A man stood just a few feet away. Dark coat, hands in his pockets. Face calm, but eyes watching her like he already knew too much. She recognized him immediately. Keanu Reeves. But she didn't care. Not really. Not right now. "Please go away," she whispered. Keanu didn't move. Instead, he stepped closer and sat down right on the cold concrete edge of the bridge, a few feet to her left, not reaching for her. Not stopping her, just sitting. "I won't say anything," he said quietly, eyes forward, looking at the river like she had, "unless you want me to." A long silence followed. The wind howled. Car passed in the distance. She wanted to scream at him, tell him to leave her alone. But something about the way he just sat there still, real made her heart beat slower. She whispered, "You don't even know me?" "No," he said, "but I see you." His words hit her like thunder in her chest. No, because they were dramatic, but because they were simple. True. Nobody had said anything like that in so long. She closed her eyes. "It doesn't matter. I'm not strong. I've tried. But nothing ever gets better." Keanu leaned back slightly, still looking at the water. "Sometimes," he said softly, "the strongest people are the ones who stay quiet about it. Get up every day with no one cheering them on, who keep breathing when it hurts." She shook her head. "I'm tired." He nodded slowly. "I know." Silence again. But it wasn't cold this time. It felt like a pause. Like a breath. Then he said something she never expected. Just one word. "Stay." Our eyes snapped to his. He wasn't crying. But his eyes held so much sadness, it broke something inside her. Not sadness for her, but with her. She stared at him. And for the first time in days, maybe weeks, her body moved slightly backward from the edge. Just an inch. But enough, Keanu saw. He didn't smile. He didn't make a speech. Just whispered, "Thank you." She started to cry. For 5 minutes, she cried like the wind had cracked her open. Her knees gave out and she collapsed to the ground, still near the edge, but no longer on it. Keanu didn't touch her, didn't interrupt. He just sat there, quiet, present, kind. Finally, her voice cracked. "Why did you stop?" Breathin said, "Because someone did the same for me once." And just like that, her life shifted. Not fixed, not perfect, but changed. The sound of the city came back into focus. The lights weren't promises anymore. They were reminders. Someone had seen her, and that was enough. For tonight. The morning after, his sun peeked through the blinds of a small guest room in a quiet hotel. It wasn't fancy, the kind of place with old carpet, simple sheets, and no questions at the front desk. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, wrapped in a hotel robe, staring at the untouched cup of tea Keanu had brought her hours ago. She hadn't slept. Not really. She closed her eyes once or twice, but every time, she saw the river, the bridge, her shoes on the edge. But she also saw him, Keanu. He was real. He hadn't disappeared after saving her. He hadn't just said, stay, and vanished. He had stayed too. Walked her away from the edge. Helped her into a car. Asked for details. Didn't try to fix her. It simply offered her a place to rest. And now, here she was. Alive. A knock at the door made her flinch. Not loud, gentle. She didn't answer right away, Emily. It was his voice. Soft, steady. It's just me. No pressure. I just brought breakfast. She opened the door slowly. Her eyes met his. He held 2 paper bags and a look of quiet understanding. She didn't speak, but she stepped aside. He entered, placed the food on the little table by the window, and pulled out a chair. He didn't sit, didn't force conversation. He just stood there, like he was waiting to see what she needed. You didn't have to do all this, she said, her voice still hoarse. I didn't want you to be alone, he said. Sometimes, that's the hardest part. She nodded. Not trusting her voice, after a long pause, she asked, why were you even on that bridge? Keanu gave a small smile. 'Cause I needed to be. I was walking, clearing my head. I take that route sometimes. But last night, something felt different. Different how? He looked at her, eyes soft but serious. I heard something in the silence. Not with my ears, with my heart. It pulled me there. To you. Emily didn't know what to say. No one had ever spoken to her like that. It's like her existence mattered. Like her pain wasn't just noise. They ate quietly, as she nibbled on toast, more out of politeness than hunger. Keanu didn't push her to talk. But when she finally asked, do you really mean it? That someone once stopped you? His answer changed everything. He looked down at his hands, took a breath, then spoke. Years ago, he said, I lost someone I loved. Someone who lit up every dark part of my world. When she passed, I broke. Not all at once. It was slow, like sand slipping through fingers. One night I sat on a rooftop, ready to let go. And then this man, this stranger, sat beside me. Didn't ask what I was doing, didn't try to lecture me. He just said, one word. Emily leaned forward. What word? Keanu's eyes met hers. Listen, he continued. He told me his story, not because he had to, but because he thought someone should hear it. I did. And in that moment, I realized, maybe that's all. Life asks sometimes to listen, to be heard, to stay, even if just one more day. Emily felt something stir inside her, small, flickering light, weak but present. So, she whispered, you paid it forward. Keanu gave a gentle nod. I guess I did. The next few hours passed in a quiet rhythm, not rushed, not forced. Emily talked a little. Keanu listened. Then he talked, and she listened. They didn't dive into the darkest corners of their pasts. They just allowed space for each other when the sun dipped again. Casting warm orange light across the window, Keanu stood. I have to head out for a bit, he said. I have a small event. It's just a charity reading. But if you'd like, you can come or stay here. Either's okay. Emily hesitated. I wouldn't belong at something like that. You belong wherever your heart leads you, he said. You're not broken. You're becoming. Those words held her like a warm blanket. And then, without planning it, she stood. I'll come, she said, but only if I can sit in the back. Keanu smiled. The best people always do. Later that evening, she found herself in a small library hall. Rows of chairs, warm lights, quiet chatter. She stayed near the back, just like she said she would. Keanu went up front, took the mic, and read a story about second chances. His voice was calm, his presence gentle. Emily listened. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like a shadow. She felt like a person when he finished. The room clapped politely, but Emily didn't clap. She simply smiled. Because she knew something no one else in that room did. He had saved her, not with fame, not with speeches, but with presence, with listening. With one word, and now, somehow, she was still here. The stranger who knew next morning came with a sky full of soft clouds and a city waking slowly. The hotel room was quiet except for the hum of a heater and the distant sound of traffic. Emily stood at the small mirror near the door, brushing her fingers through her tangled hair. Her eyes looked different now, still tired, still sad but no longer hollow. She hadn't spoken much after the reading last night. They returned quietly. Keanu had offered her space, told her she could stay as long as she needed. She thanked him, unsure of what would come next. But part of her had already decided she couldn't go back to the life she had. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And strangely, she didn't feel lost about that. She stepped outside the room, hoping to grab some fresh air. The hallway smelled of old carpets and coffee. When she reached the lobby, she noticed the front desk was empty, but someone else stood near the entrance. A woman. Not just any woman. The way she stood, holding a folder tight against her chest, wearing a coat 2 sizes too big and boots with scuffed heels. It felt familiar. The woman looked up. Their eyes met. The woman's face changed instantly, recognition, then concern, then hesitation. "Emily," she said, voice unsure but direct. Emily froze. "Yes. Do I know you?" The woman took a small step forward. "I'm Claire. I work with your mother." Emily's heart dropped. Her stomach turned. "My mother? Why? How did you find me?" Claire lowered her voice. "Your mother called me 2 nights ago, crying. She said she hadn't heard from you in weeks. She asked if I could try to find you. I didn't know where to start. I searched online. Then I saw the photo from last night's charity event." Emily felt her chest tighten. "The reading." "Yes," Claire nodded. "You were in the back row. Someone took a wide shot and posted it. I recognized you. I came straight here." Emily turned away, heart pounding. "I didn't want anyone to find me. Not yet." Claire stepped beside her gently. "Your mother's not angry. She's scared. She's been asking for you." Tears threatened to form in Emily's eyes, but she fought them. "I thought she stopped caring. She never returned my messages." Claire nodded slowly. She didn't know how. She's been sick, not just physically. Emotionally, too. She didn't want you to see her like that. For a long moment, neither spoke. Emily stared out the window, lost in the storm inside her mind. Finally, she whispered, "I almost died 2 nights ago." Claire didn't react with shock. Instead, she stepped a little closer and softly said, "But you didn't, and that matters more than anything."
Act.
They sat down in the lobby corner, where the chairs faced the morning light. "Why did you really come?"
Act.
Claire opened the folder she'd been holding. Inside were pages, medical records, letters, and on top, a handwritten note. "Your mother wrote this. She told me if I ever found you, to give it to you only if I thought you were ready." Emily hesitated, then reached for the note with trembling hands. It was shaky, not long. It's barely a paragraph. "My dear Emily, I failed you. Not because I didn't love you, but because I didn't know how to reach you through my own pain. I see you. I'm sorry. If you are reading this, it means you're still here. And that is the only thing that matters. Come home when you're ready, or don't. But please, know you are never alone. Love." Mom. Emily folded the letter against her chest and leaned forward, her body shaking silently. Claire placed a hand on her shoulder, but said nothing. After a few minutes, Keanu entered the lobby. He paused when he saw them. Claire stood up and walked over to him. "You must be Mr. Reeves." He nodded slightly. "Keanu is fine, thank you," Claire said, for giving her space, for saving her. He looked toward Emily and replied, "She saved herself. I was just there." Later, as they all sat in a small cafe down the block, Emily spoke quietly. "I'm scared to go back." Keanu leaned forward. "You don't have to go back to the same life. You just have to go forward, one breath at a time." "What if I break again?" she asked. "Then you'll rebuild," he said, "stronger. Not because you didn't fall, but because you chose to rise." Claire smiled. "We'll all help you, Emily. You just have to let us." That afternoon, something shifted. Emily didn't feel completely healed. The weight wasn't gone, but the world felt less empty. She had a letter in her pocket, a friend by her side, and a stranger who had shown her the kind of kindness that rewrites a person's story. As they walked down the street, the city buzzed around them. Life kept moving, and so did she. The invitation rain came soft that morning, like the sky was whispering instead of crying. Emily stood under a small black umbrella, watching the drops hit the pavement outside the cafe. It had been 3 days since she met Claire. Days since she read the note from her mother. 3 days since her heart began to remember how to beat with hope again. She hadn't gone home, yet Claire had returned to her city with a promise to visit again soon. Her mother, she learned, had been diagnosed with an early memory condition. Not quite full dementia, but enough to confuse her emotions and create distance. It didn't make everything better, but it gave the silence meaning. Now it was just her and Keanu again, and something between them that felt quietly powerful. Not romance, not exactly, but something deeper than strangers, warmer than friendship. When he entered the cafe, dressed in a simple black sweater and jeans, she could tell he had something on his mind. He sat down across from her and set a small envelope on the table. "What's that?" she asked gently. He smiled slightly. "An invitation. For you." Emily hesitated. "To what?" He nodded toward the envelope. "Open it." She picked it up with slow fingers and carefully pulled out the contents. It was a printed page. A letter. And at the bottom, in simple black ink, were the words, "Speaker's Circle, a 3-day. Private retreat in the hills for those who have experienced emotional trauma and want to help others heal through storytelling." Her hands trembled slightly. "Why are you giving me this?" Keanu leaned forward. "Because they asked me to speak. I've been going for years. Not to be a star, just to share. But this time, I asked if I could bring someone. Someone who needed to be heard. They said yes, and I thought of you." Emily looked away, her throat tightening. "Keanu, I'm not ready to tell anyone my story. Can't stand in front of strangers and talk about ... that night." He shook his head. "You don't have to. You don't even have to speak. Just come, listen, feel, breathe. You don't have to be the voice. Just be present." She looked back down at the page. Something about it scared her, not because it was dangerous, but because it meant being seen again. "Being real? I'll think about it," she said quietly. He nodded. "That's all I ask." 2 days later, she sat beside him on a train heading north. Trees blurred past the window, tall and quiet, like guardians of the world beyond. She still hadn't decided if she would speak. Her journal sat unopened in her bag, but her heart felt steadier when they arrived at the retreat center. Nestled between forest-covered hills and a quiet lake, Emily was surprised by how calm it all felt. There were no flashing lights, no paparazzi, no signs saying, "Look who came." Just people. Real people. Some looked tired, others looked calm. But all of them had the same softness in their eyes, the kind you only get after you've been through something and chosen to keep living anyway. The first night, a woman named Lena spoke. She shared the story of losing her daughter and how grief had built a wall so high she couldn't see over it until someone finally gave her a ladder. Her words weren't polished. Her voice cracked, but no one judged. And when she finished, the entire room stood to clap. Emily didn't clap. At first, her hands were frozen. But then Keanu leaned in and whispered, "It's okay. No one expects you to be anyone but yourself." So she clapped. Not because everyone else did, but because the story reached something inside her. It made her feel less alone. The second day, there were small group circles. Emily stayed silent most of the time. Others shared. A man named Marco who had survived war. A young woman named Dev who had battled addiction. Emily listened, nodded, took slow breaths. When it was her turn, silence filled the space. She looked at the floor, her hands, then at Keanu, who sat beside her in the circle, giving her a look that didn't say "go ahead, but you're safe." And finally, she said it. "I almost died last week." Every head turned. But no one spoke. She continued, her voice trembling. "I was on a bridge, ready to end everything. And then someone sat beside me and said one word. That word was stay. And I did. And now I'm here. I'm not healed. I'm not whole. But I'm here." No one clapped, No one needed to. Just breathed with her. It's like one quiet heartbeat. After the session, a few people came up to her, thanked her, told her she helped them feel seen, but the most surprising moment came when Lena, the woman who had spoken the first night, handed Emily a small notebook. "I wrote in this for my daughter," she said. "When she passed, I stopped. Now, ... maybe it's time it goes to someone else. Someone starting their own chapter." Emily held the book tight against her chest. "Thank you." Later that evening, she sat by the lake alone. The sun was setting behind the hills, painting the sky with soft orange and pink. She opened the notebook. The first page had a single line: "The story isn't over until you stop writing." She turned to a fresh page, held her pen, and began to write. Not about death, but about staying, about bridges, letters. It's the man who didn't try to fix. Her just sat beside her when she needed it most. She didn't know how it would end. But for the first time in a long time, she cared enough to see what came next. The Offworth retreat ended on a quiet morning with birdsong and mist hanging over the lake like a soft curtain. Emily stood near the edge of the water, holding the notebook Lena had given her. Its pages now filled with words she never thought she'd write again. Not just about pain, but about moments, feelings, memories she'd buried deep beneath silence. Behind her, she heard slow footsteps. Keanu. He didn't speak right away. Jess stood beside her and looked at the lake. They'd developed a rhythm now, a language of pauses, glances, and unspoken care. Finally, he said, "You wrote a lot." She nodded. "More than I thought I could. Did it help?" Down at the notebook, it didn't fix anything, but it made me feel like I still exist. Keanu smiled. "That's more than enough." They walked back to the main lodge together, where the final breakfast was being served. People hugged, exchanged contacts, and shared soft goodbyes. Emily hadn't expected to feel anything when she arrived. She felt everything before she left. Lena handed her a folded paper. "Open it later," she whispered with a warm smile, "when you're somewhere quiet." Emily tucked it into her coat and didn't think much about it. Later that evening, after the train ride back and a quiet dinner in Keanu's hotel suite, Emily sat by the window and finally unfolded the paper. It was a printed email, an invitation. "Dear Emily, we would be honored to invite you to speak at next month's Voices of Hope event in Seattle. We believe your story could inspire others who are walking through their own darkness. You do not need to be polished or perfect, just need to be real. Your presence could change someone's life the way someone once changed yours." Emily stared at the paper for a long time. Keanu looked over from the table, sensing the shift. In her breathing, everything okay? She handed him the note. He read it slowly, then looked up at her. "This is big. I don't know if I can do it," she said quietly. "What if I mess up? What if I freeze? What if no one connects to what I say?" Keanu shook his head. "What if you say the one sentence someone else needs to hear? What if someone walks away from the edge because of you?" His words sank deep into her. "Do you remember?" he said gently. "The night I found you on the bridge, how you said no one saw you?" She nodded slowly. "They'll see you now, not because you're perfect, but because you're honest." Emily leaned back in her chair. Her chest felt tight, but it wasn't fear. It was weight. The kind of weight that comes from doing something that matters. She didn't give an answer right away, but she didn't throw the paper away either. A week passed. She spent it in a quiet apartment near the edge of the city. One Keanu arranged through a friend, just for a little while. She filled the space with soft lights, a new journal, and post-it notes on the fridge reminding herself to breathe, to walk, to drink water. Small steps. On a rainy Thursday morning, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something told her to answer. "Hello?" A voice spoke gently. "Is this Emily?" "Yes. Hi. My name's Rachel. I help coordinate the Voices of Hope event. I just wanted to confirm, will you be joining us next Saturday?" Emily's mouth went dry. Her heart pounded. She looked at her notebook. At the post-it on her desk that read, "You are still here then," she said, "Yes, I'll be there." The woman on the other end smiled through the phone. "We're honored." After she hung up, Emily sat in silence for 10 full minutes. Then she called one person. Keanu answered on the first ring. "Hey." I said yes, she whispered. She could almost hear his smile. "You're brave." "Oh no," she said. "I'm still scared. Brave people always are." The day of the event came faster than she expected. Keanu flew with her to Seattle. Stayed in the same hotel. Walked with her to the small venue. Not backstage. Not into the spotlight. Just as her silent support, when her name was called, she stepped onto the stage alone. The lights were warm. The room was small. Just enough. People to matter. She held the microphone with both hands, breathed in and began. "My name is Emily," she said, voice steady, though soft. 2 weeks ago, I stood on a bridge ready to disappear. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know how to keep caring. The room went still. She shared it all. Not every detail, not every scar, but enough to be real. She spoke of silence, of fear, of the stranger who didn't try to fix her, but simply said one word, "Stay." That one word saved me, she said. And now I want to say it to anyone listening who feels like they can't hold on. Stay, please. Just stay. You matter, even if your world says you don't. The crowd didn't erupt. They rose. Quiet applause, tears, a standing ovation, not for performance, but for presence.
Emily looked down from the stage and saw Keanu in the corner, not clapping loudly, just nodding, soft, proud, present, and for the first time, Emily felt something
she hadn't in years. Purpose, not because she had everything figured out, but because she chose to live. The message of these following days passed like a quiet wave, slow, powerful, and deeply emotional. After the event, Emily returned to the apartment, unsure of what to expect. She didn't want applause. She didn't want fame. All she had wanted was to survive the moment without falling apart. But something began to happen. People started reaching out, not in crowds, not with noise, but in whispers, through emails, handwritten letters, quiet messages online. Strangers, students, mothers, veterans, people from all walks of life who had watched her speech online. Someone had filmed it and posted a short. Clipped, it wasn't flashy. It wasn't viral in the usual sense. But it spread like something real tends to. One night, she sat on her couch, laptop open, scrolling through the growing pile of messages. Most were short. "Thank you, I stayed. Watched your story right when I needed it. You helped me put down the bottle." But one message stopped her completely. It came from a teenage girl named Mia. "Hi, Emily. My name is Mia. I'm 16. Was on the edge last week. I was ready to end it. Then I saw your speech. I listened to your voice shaking when you said the word stay, and I paused. Then I cried. Then I told my older sister everything. She held me for hours. I don't know what will happen tomorrow, but I'm here today. Thank you for being brave first. You saved me." Emily stared at the screen as her hand covered her mouth. Tears ran down her cheeks, soft and steady. She replied with only one line. "You are not alone. I see you. Stay." Over the next month, Emily was invited to speak at 2 more small events. It's not because she was polished, not because she was a writer or a public figure, but because she was real. Keanu stood by her side through it all, not as a shadow, not as a spotlight. Just as someone who had once needed help and now gave it in silence. They never put a label on what they were to each other. It didn't matter. Some people thought they were a couple. Others assumed he was her mentor. Truth was, he was just a man who had once been broken to and refused to let her break alone. One rainy evening, she returned home after speaking at a youth shelter. She took off her soaked jacket and found Keanu sitting in the kitchen, sipping tea. "How did it go?" he asked. "Heavy," she said, dropping her bag. "But good." A girl there asked if it's okay to still cry after healing. "What did you say?" I told her healing doesn't mean never crying. It just means you believe the tears will eventually stop. He nodded. "That's a good answer." She sat down beside him, her hair dripping slightly. Then she looked at him with a question she hadn't asked before. Why me, Keanu? That night, the bridge? Why did you sit down? He looked at her, not with drama or mystery, but with that same calm energy that had saved her the first time. Because I saw someone who reminded me of myself, he said. And because once, someone sat beside me when no one else did. Never told me who, she said softly. He shrugged. Doesn't matter. What matters is they didn't walk away. Emily reached out and gently touched his hand. No words, just presence. In that moment, she realized something. She wasn't just alive, she was living, and it was enough. A year later, Emily stood backstage at a small conference called Voices Still Rise. She had helped organize it. 30 speakers, all survivors, all storytellers. She glanced at her phone just before walking on stage. A message from Mia. Guess what? I just finished my first year of college. I joined a support group. And I'm starting to write again. Thank you for helping me stay. Emily closed her eyes and smiled, then stepped out onto the stage. The crowd wasn't huge, but every seat was filled. And somewhere in the very back row, Keanu sat, head slightly bowed, hands folded, watching her not like a fan, but like a witness. She took a deep breath, held the mic and began. My name's Emily, and I stayed. The crowd leaned in, not for a perfect story, but for a true one. Because somewhere out there, someone else was standing on a metaphorical bridge. And maybe, just maybe, her voice would be the one word they needed to hear.